Brilliant. We're starting to get a few more in now, so I will start. Firstly, hello. Thank you for joining me this morning. And in true wellbeing style, I'm pretty sure it won't take the full hour unless there are lots and lots of questions. So I'll be able to give you back some of that time, true wellbeing style. Firstly, I want to introduce myself. So my name is Jack Green. I am head of performance here at Champion Health. So I'm responsible for obviously the performance of the platform, our team, and how we progress with our strategy and our development. It's something I'm very proud of. I'm incredibly passionate around high performance and the link, obviously, from high performance to well-being. I think it's something we haven't quite mastered yet, but understanding that to thrive personally means we are more likely to thrive professionally. So that link from well-being to performance should always be there. Performance isn't elitist. It isn't just for the best of the best, the world best, or whatever it might be. Everyone is a high performer. If you are trying to be the best parent you can be, trying to be the best friend, just the best you, quite frankly, you are performing. For me, trying is performing. It's something I'm incredibly passionate about. And that passion came from my previous job. I spent 10 years as a professional athlete. I represented Great Britain at 2 Olympic Games, both in London and in Rio. I competed in the 400-metre hurdles and the 4x400-metre relay. I'm a world and European medalist. I finished 4th at the Olympics and 4th at the Commonwealth Games. So that's where my passion for performance comes. But my passion for well-being and mental health comes from my own experience. I struggled with mental health during my career, went very public with that. I ended up taking a break from the sport. I became an ambassador for Mind and Young Minds, which I still do now. I've worked with the government, the UK government, on elite sport and mental health reform there, but in wider society as well. And that led to me retiring early from track and field at the age of 28. And I ended up being the head of wellbeing, the global lead for wellbeing at BBC Studios before joining Champion Health. Now, that's a little around me. I also coach on the side. I had athletes compete at the Olympics last year. Very proud to have done that. And they have been successful because I value that well-being piece and want them to thrive as human beings. But obviously, I have a huge passion for well-being that ties into Champion Health because that is what we do. But before I get started, I wanted to ask a question. Now, we have the chat function there. Obviously, we've got the Q&A, so please ask any questions at any point. I will get to them when I can, most likely at the end. So I do apologise if I talk at you for the next however long, but please put those questions in whenever. But using the chat function now, be really interested to see whether there is a huge interest in a certain particular pillar or subject within wellbeing for you as an individual or within your organisation. So if you want to put in the chat what the most important kind of subject to you and wellbeing at the moment is, that would be fantastic. Brilliant. Mental health. We know how important, obviously, mental health is and really feeds into everything else as well. Any others, anything that's come up over the last 18 months or so within the organisation? It'd be great to hear if there's any other parts of interest. Work-life balance. Yeah, the remote flexible working, that working from home, loneliness and isolation being a big part of that. Yeah, exactly, Karen. Yeah, love it. So this is really interesting to hear. This is how I learned as a wellbeing lead myself, talking to people like yourself and finding out what the interests are, but also what other organisations are doing to support their people. I will hopefully, the plan is, I will show you how Champion can help you moving forward. So let me do a little introduction to Champion. So Champion Health is a workplace wellbeing platform. And Champion Health was founded by Harry Bliss and Ricky Bailey, our co-founders. Also, Harry is our CEO and Ricky is our head of design and makes everything look as good as it does. Now, Champion Health was built on the back of suicide prevention. It's a really touching story and a very sad story to share, but it's a big part of our journey. Harry unfortunately lost his mentor, his business mentor, a very successful individual with a family, no previous medical history. His mentor, James, unfortunately took his own life. And that was very much a big part of Champion. And what we still have now, and fire in our belly as such, is to move forward and support as many people as possible and really give them a preventative, proactive solution rather than your typical reactive solutions we have within workplace wellbeing. Now, the three big areas that Champion Health cover are, we are all areas of wellbeing. I'm sure you've seen many solutions out there that are mental health, financial wellbeing, for example, but we cover all areas. So we bring all areas into one place. Not only does that reduce the cost from an organizational point of view of not having to have lots of providers, plus the ease of just speaking to one, but every individual then will be able to save on costs, which helps them with their financial well-being and that ease of accessibility, because individuals aren't having to have a mindfulness app, a physical workouts app, nutrition, and paying hundreds of pounds a year. So we wanted all areas in one place. The other two things, the first one is personalization. We personalize the whole platform to every individual. You'll see how we'll do that. I'll take you through it on the demo. But well-being is so individual, so unique. What will work for me might not work for you. And we have to tailor our well-being support to really get that impact and make a big difference. And that's something we do with Champion. And then the final big issue that we cover is data. Being a former well-being lead myself, finding well-being data was incredibly hard to do. I was reliant upon EAP data, which was only 2% of my workforce. We didn't record absence data, various other bits. I didn't have much to work with. And when I wanted to be able to get the return on investment, build that business case, but also support my people with what they actually want and need, I was unable to find that data. That is something we can give you anonymously, and I'll show you how we do that in the Leadership Hub. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to share my screen. Again, I'm going to apologise if I'm talking at you for quite a long time, but obviously with a larger group, hard to bring in those little moments of breaks. So I will show you the Champion Health platform. We start in the health assessment, which is the first part of our platform, which leads into our wellbeing report with our action plans, which are all personalised to every individual. We then have the main platform, which is the Netflix of Wellbeing. We've been called the Netflix of Wellbeing because we have a very similar look, but because we're very much audio and video content, and we are supporting people with a real variety of that content. And then the final piece is the Leadership Hub that I will show you, which is where we have all of that data. So let me share my screen. Give me 2 seconds, and you should be able to see that. Brilliant. So at this point, it's hard for me to see the chat and so on, so I will get back to you as soon as possible if there are questions in the Q&A function that we have, or if there's anything in the chat. So what you can see here is the start of our assessment. You can see on the right in this panel that we cover all areas of wellbeing in the assessment, from physical health through to behaviour change. Now, this assessment will take an employee 15 to 20 minutes to complete. I won't take you through the whole thing because I don't want to spend the whole time in here. I'm very conscious of your time as well. So I'll give you a flavour of what that looks like. So if I jump into physical activity, you can see here, not only does it look good, which has helped with that, good with that engagement, really helps. But if we look at physical activity, we're asking you, how many minutes of physical activity do you do a week? So we're finding out how active an individual is. We're asking them about resistance or strength training and stretching, including yoga, because in the previous section, we look at musculoskeletal health. Now, we know that 70% of the working population will struggle with back pain. So if an individual is saying they're doing very little training whatsoever, particularly in stretching, yoga, for example, we have tailored action plan points and content that will help that individual, be it back pain, it might be your hips, whatever it might be. We've got content to direct to that person and support them through that. Now, we want to be as inclusive as possible here at Champion Health. So if we have someone who uses a wheelchair, we don't want to ask them how many hours they spend sitting a day. And we will tailor the whole platform. When they click on that little button, we'll tailor the whole platform to that individual. That's a huge part of what we do and why our usage and our engagement rates are quite high, because we personalize it. We show you what you want and what you need. We then move into the next part, and this is sleep. We know that sleep is one of the biggest factors in terms of people's health. So sleep deprivation is typically the biggest cause to obesity, a lack of productivity, various other things around mental health. So sleep is so important. Now, here at Champion Health, we do a lot of self-assessment. You can see here from exceptional all the way to terrible. And the reason we do this is because everyone is going to have a different experience. This individual is only getting 3 hours of sleep. Yet for some people, that's okay. They might say that's exceptional. For people like myself who much prefer 8 hours or more, I'm going to say it's terrible. So we're able to make it personalized in that piece. We then ask if you experience any of the following. Now, we partnered with 2 universities, Leeds Beckett and University of Sheffield, as well as a group of leading doctors to produce action plan points and content throughout our platform, but in particular, it's linked to sleep. So we'll be able to direct individuals to content around insomnia, difficulty getting to sleep, for example. Now, this stat is incredible. When I heard this, I was shocked. If you work night shifts, on average, it takes 10 years off your life expectancy if you are regularly working night shifts. Yet there is very little training around there. Now, we work with NHS trusts and various other organisations that have night shift workers. So if they click yes, we're able to then tailor the content towards them, to support them with their night shifts. This is then my favourite section of the assessment. This is on stress. So you can see here, we've got a lot more on the self-assessment. So high stress levels. We all feel stressed at probably a lot of the time. And yet we don't really know why a lot of the time, why an organisation might have that high stress feel. Now, if you didn't experience stress, well, it was a perfect amount, you don't get this bonus question. But as soon as I click on my stress being unmanageable, or I'm overwhelmed and cannot cope, we're going to ask you the reasons why. And this is the anonymous data you'll be able to see later in the Leadership Hub, where you will be able to see that 60% of your workforce are struggling with working from home, for example. It might be insufficient training, it might be commuting, whatever it might be, we're able to then go into real nitty-gritty of it, get you the details that you can't find anywhere else. And this was the kind of information that I saw as gold when I was in a wellbeing lead position. Now, I told you how I am very passionate about the human being and the personal side of an individual thriving. So we ask around stress at home as well, because it's useful information for a workforce to know. Now, we know there are certain responsibilities for a workforce, and that doesn't always go into the personal life, but an awareness of being able to support those individuals with what's going on at home is very important. You can see here the final part of stress we ask about is financial well-being, more self-assessment, and financial well-being is obviously such an important subject within well-being. We then go into mental health and mental well-being, and this is the start of it. And what you can see here is we stress throughout that this assessment and all of the data is anonymous. Nobody can be individually identified. And with that trust piece is so important to getting that high engagement, getting the honest answers. And that is something we will stress throughout. And we are ISO 27001 compliant, meant nothing to me at the time when I first heard it, but it's the highest standard of data protection globally. And it's something we take very seriously and stress throughout our onboarding phase with our clients. Mental well-being looks very simple here. We have scales from 1 to 5 of none of the time to all of the time. This is the Warwick-Edinburgh scale for measuring mental well-being. Feeling optimistic about the future is one of the questions. Feeling useful, for example. We look at how we measure anxiety for this individual. So you can see here, this is the GAD-7 score. This is feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge. This then gives us academically backed results that were able to tell you what the depression, the anxiety symptoms are, and the general mental well-being of your workforce. Now, I don't want to spend the whole time in here. So what I'm going to do is skip to behaviour. Because what our assessment does is it highlights the risks and dangers to an individual, the employee, but to the organisation as well. And we obviously want to be able to improve the individual's well-being and make those changes. And we do that through behaviour change. Our whole platform is based on the feast model, which is fun, it's easy, it's accessible and attractive, it's social and it's timely. So that's what we base it on, behaviour change. We ask you, which goals would you like to work towards? Now, what we're doing here is we're empowering people. We're giving them choice. So we're asking them, would you prefer to improve your mood, reduce your stress, reduce your alcohol intake, eat well, for example, whatever it might be. This then allows us to give people what they want rather than us just guessing, which is what well-being currently is at the moment. Which goal is most important to you? And then we will build the awareness of the potential barriers. So is it work commitments, family commitments? It might be your finances that are getting in the way from you reaching your goals. Oh, just got to click on this middle one. And then we move forward to generate our report. Now, this should take 15 seconds, depending on my internet. We'll see. A few people in my house today, but it's looking pretty good. So you almost get an instant reward for that 15, 20 minutes of investment of time in the assessment. You get small onboarding phase just around the report and the rest of the platform. But this is what the employee will see. You get your wellbeing web. You can see here that physical activity in particular is a strength, but that 3 hours of very poor insomnia, difficulty getting to sleep, that is somewhere we need to improve. So we celebrate the highlights because well-being can be quite negative. And then we highlight the starting points as well. And then one of my favorite pieces of the platform is we signpost any existing services you currently have. If you have an EAP, you have a remote GP, you have a list of mental health first aiders, for example, we will signpost to them all here. So we're creating that one hub of well-being and we're getting people into support faster. So we're taking away those barriers to support. We're getting people support as quickly as possible. And if you don't have any services that cover sleep, for example, don't worry about that. We will always signpost someone to something. Depending on locality, we will recommend charities, helplines, and resources to support an individual's needs. You can see on the left here, we break down the report into all of these different sections. If I click into mental well-being, this is what the employee sees. Their measurement of stress, anxiety, low mood, financial well-being with information tabs, just to tell you a little bit more about it. And then we have over 1,000 action plan points, completely individual to every user off the back of that assessment. So the algorithms will pick up what is needed, what's been identified that this individual needs, and will tailor those action plan points. And they've been developed by the 2 unis and doctors I talked about earlier. You can see here, for example, this has recognized this person is a new parent and they're feeling lonely and isolated. So there's an action plan point for that. There's one around this person's mood fluctuating and their well-being. So there's a starting point for that. Now, this isn't going to change the world, these starting points, but it's going to give someone that awareness and that real start to move forward and begin to make those bigger changes. And then this is where we turn into the Netflix of Wellbeing. So this is where we recommend content we believe you need for each subject. You can see here, understanding anxiety is one, take a break, a mindfulness session. We have a mixture of audio and video content with the transcripts available as well. And if you click on that little heart there, that allows you to favorite it to come back later. Now, I appreciate I've just talked at you for a very long time. So before I show you the Netflix of Wellbeing and then the Leadership Hub, I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are any questions. Is that what you were hoping to see today, for example? If there's any questions, if not, it's a quick little break and then I'll take you back into the platform for the main piece, which is the Netflix of Wellbeing. Brilliant, thank you, Karen. That's nice to hear. Hopefully you'll enjoy the rest of it as well. Brilliant. Well, if there's no questions moving forward, I'll show you the Netflix of Wellbeing. That's our main piece of the platform. That's where we bring all areas of wellbeing into one place and personalize it. Remember, there is the Q&A function if you do want to ask any questions. So let me share my screen. I'll go back to it. So you can see at the bottom here, we have 5 different sections. We're in the report right now. That's where we've just been. We have the trackers. So we have a daily mood tracker. We have a daily sleep tracker, and we're building out a physical activity tracker as well. Those can't integrate with wearables at this moment in time, but they will soon. But that idea around the daily tracker is to get that daily awareness and get that daily engagement, create those habits. We then have the For You section. The For You section is exactly that. It's for you. This is that personalized, tailored content. So off the back of that assessment, it's identified that this individual needs help with their sleep, nutrition, physical health, for example. We recommend the content. All of your favorites will live here soon, and all of that can be accessed here for every individual. The hub is then the action and the doing. This is our mindfulness and our meditation, our workouts. So we have HIIT workouts, yoga and Pilates. We have seated workouts delivered by Paralympians, so it can be as inclusive as possible. We also have sleep content, both for adults and for children, because if in the assessment we identify you are a new parent, especially with young children, we want to be able to support you in helping them get to sleep to boost your own. Because let's be honest, if you're a new parent or a parent of any age, quite frankly, you're probably not sleeping your 8 hours a night, and we're not going to recommend you do so, but we want to support you with that. We then have our soothing sounds, and then we also have recipes. So we have over 100 recipes developed by a Premier League football nutritionist. We're also building out low-cost meals, and the beauty of being a content company is we add new content weekly to the platform. That helps with that engagement, keeps people excited, but also allows us to listen to our customers, our clients at the moment, and find out their needs. One of them was we want some more low-cost meals. So we're building out those at the moment. So let me click into that. You can see this is our recipe, our chicken and mango stir fry. We have our ingredients, our method, and our health highlights. Just click that little heart, as we said earlier, to come back to that. Just seen can individuals go in and out as often as they like to Netflix of Wellbeing? Exactly. They can go in as often as they want, 24/7. They don't have to just use it in the workplace. It's there for them at all times. So that is a big part of what we do. Now, the final part of the Netflix of Wellbeing to show you is the Academy. This is where we have our learning and development and our education. This is all areas of wellbeing covered, from men's health to women's health. To look at the menopause, it's the most probably talked about subject within wellbeing at the moment, rightly so. We have that covered here, through to neurodiversity. We have content around that, nutrition, sleep, you name it in wellbeing, financial wellbeing, for example, it all lives here. You can access that at any point. If we click into mental wellbeing, you'll be able to see we break that down into all the different subject headers as well. And what you've probably noticed with our content is it's between 2 and 15 minutes, unless it's a recipe or some of the workouts. And that's so that we can engage with a time-poor workforce, which, let's be honest, we all feel time poor, and we wanted to overcome that barrier. So all of our content is nice and short. And also the beauty of having a lot of audio content as well is people don't have to look at their screens. So they can put some headphones in, or just put the phone down, or whatever it might be, and just listen to our content. So we're not always asking people to be engaged with the screen as well either. So that is the Netflix of Wellbeing. That is where you will find all of our areas of wellbeing covered, as well as that personalized, tailored content. So there's one final piece to show you. I've got the chat open if there was anything else to add. Otherwise, I will go into the Leadership Hub, where I can show you where all of the data lives, that anonymous data. Just give it 30 seconds or so to see if there's any other comments or questions. Just gives you a little break from my voice for 30 seconds. Brilliant. Well, I'm hoping that means that you're all engaged and I'm doing a good job and letting you know what we do here at Champion. So the next part to show you, for me, is the crown jewel of what we do. This is the bit for the organisations where you really see that impact. Sorry, Karen, just see. Would the company see any of the data, or is it purely for the individual? The report is only seen by the individual, and what I'm going to show you now is what the company will see, which is that anonymous aggregated data. So, sorry about the clicking onto here. It suddenly goes very bright very quickly. You'll need sunglasses when you switch from the two. But this is the Leadership Hub. This is where the data lives. We can break down that data departmentally as long as you have 15 people or more in a team, because that then allows us to keep it anonymous. And over time, you will see the trends. So individuals will complete the health assessment every 6 months for the company to have new data, but the individual can complete it as often as they like. But for the data piece, for the company, it will be every 6 months. That allows us to measure behaviour change and really see the impact, not only of Champion Health and our platform, but of your wellbeing strategy and your culture and environment as well. We break down this data into all of these different sections, from behaviour change through to energy levels and productivity. I'll click into stress because that was one of the ones you saw earlier. You can see here that we have our employee stress levels, our impact on productivity. That's a self-assessment from your employees that will say that their poor stress or their high levels of stress are having a negative impact on their work and their productivity. That's something we obviously want to see change as we go through the trends, as we work together as a partnership. You'll see those stressed at work, from no stress to overwhelmed, but it's this kind of detail that I talked about earlier that you'll be able to see. 67% of this workforce are struggling with workload. 51% are struggling working from home. And this is the kind of insight you'll be able to get to be able to then make changes to your strategy or changes to your policy, whatever it might be, to create an environment where people can thrive. We look at causes of stress at home, financial pressure, COVID. Obviously, we brought out COVID to be its own section here, because unfortunately that's not going anywhere anytime soon, but it's something we need to be very, very aware of. We look at financial well-being here as well, and you can see how that's having an impact on your workforce and employees. The other one I wanted to show you was behaviour change, because this was the final part of that assessment that I showed you, where we want to ask people what they want to change. You can see here the issues impacting productivity. The main one here for this workforce is tiredness. But the big thing here is, what do employees actually want? So if you are putting on a seminar or sending out extra resources, whatever it might be, you want that return on investment. This allows us to go, well, hold on, 62% of my workforce want to change activity. So how can I support them with that? Same with mental health, stress, whatever it might be that comes up, just gives you a little more insight to be far more targeted with what you do within your workforce. And then we're looking at barriers to change. So what's the reasons why your individuals might not make that change? Is it a lack of time? Is it willpower? But we also have culture and environment pieces here, supported at work in their role, feeling part of a team, motivated to change. So this is an insight to our data, what we can show you. As you can see, it covers all these different areas. And as I said, this was, for me, the crown jewel of what we do. And when I was at BBC, was the thing that I thought, this is going to make my job a lot more easier, but also be a lot more impactful. The other bits to show you are the engagement resources. We will always build those out with you. So we have our design team. We will always build out resources to not only to promote Champion Health, but promote wellbeing in general. That is the same for campaigns and communications. We have 3 packages here in our pricing at Champion. We have a package called Premium. This is obviously our top package, and that includes us supporting you with writing a health and wellbeing strategy. Now, most of our clients are on our middle package, but some of our smaller clients want that support on the health and wellbeing strategy, and we give them that through our wellbeing leads. And then the final piece to show you is the Leaders Lab. Now, this is huge for me. This is something that our current clients rave about. All of this content can be accessed in the main platform, but we pull it out here to make leaders and managers very aware of it. So it's to help leaders and managers support their team, but support themselves as well. So you can see here we have handling conflict at work, we have emotional intelligence content, we have content around neurodiversity in the workplace, suicide prevention within the workplace. But managers and leaders get a lot put on them in terms of responsibility of supporting their teams, and we need to be able to support them as well. So we also have tailored content to be able to support an individual who is managing, to be able to look after themselves so they're thriving, to allow them to look after their team better. So that is the Leadership Hub. That's where you will find all of the data, as well as the engagement resources, campaigns and communications, and that leadership and manager content training as well. The final piece to show you, and then I'm going to stop sharing my screen, we can do some questions and you'll get some time back as well if there aren't any questions, in true wellbeing style. And this is something that launched yesterday. So it's very new. I'm very excited about it. It's probably sums up why I joined Champion Health, because I wanted to be in an organisation that genuinely cared and really kind of aligned with my purpose, which was to help people. So what we do here at Champion Health is we will extend the impact of our platform to 3 friends and family for free for the whole time we partner with an organisation. So every individual can invite 3 friends and 4 family to be able to access the platform at no extra cost. For me, that is huge, because not only are we helping individuals within a workplace, but we're helping build their environment and change the culture that they're currently in outside of work as well, by supporting their nearest and dearest. And the plus is as well, this one that not many people think about, is there will be individuals who won't be engaged with wellbeing, who might not want to be engaged with wellbeing, but we can still help them change their environment and support them if they then give access to their partner or to their children, for example, or their best friend. And yes, Karen, this is for every individual. So every single individual can give access to 3 friends and family. And how it works, it looks a bit like Netflix, I know. You can see they're pending because I've only just sent them to my friends and family. But you create that label, you can change the color of their icon, but you'll get this link that will be generated. Send that to your friend or family. They click on that, they now have access to the platform. If obviously you want to change anyone on there, we can do that as well. Remove the user and just reallocate that link. So for me, that is a huge part of what we do and sums up Champion Health and our mission, which is to make healthier easier and to support as many people as possible. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If there are any questions, please let me know. And what I obviously will be doing after this is following up with people and seeing if this is of interest and if anyone wants to have a further conversation with me. But I really appreciate you taking the last 33 minutes of your morning to speak with me. But if there are any questions, please do ask.